Good day everyone, it is episode 13 of Career and we are picking up where we left off last time. And that is with that we are supposed to start the build of our oil tanker today. That means that we are quite busy today. We don't only have to build the hull and the superstructure, but also we have to test the tanker out in waves and test its stability. So because we probably don't have a second to spare, let's jump into the workbench. So I am here in the workbench. I have prepared some blocks. And now let's just start laying it out. So we want around 65 meters of length at 65. Now let's get our beam. So tankers usually have a ratio of 1 to 6 as the width to length ratio. So let's do 10.75 meters, that should work. Now let's go over here and start with the bow. We want more of a stubby bow. And we're done with this. I think that works for a tanker bow. Now let's start off by making the side profile. This would look absolutely horrible on a car ferry, but for a tanker I think this looks nice. So now shall we move on the stern or fill this in? I guess let's move on the stern. Now here we have a bigger problem than with the bow. That is, I don't know if I want to do jets or propellers. Because if I went for propellers, I would put one here, and that would mean that I would make a different stern than on my other ships. But I really wanna go for the jets because they are better for me. So I'm probably gonna go for the jets, but I'm still going to make this stern a little different, with the fact that I'll kind of lower it here. Reminds me of a stern of the Q-Max ships, because there are going to be two jets here, one here and one here. So let's now make this, and here with this ship I have a little more room with the stern. I can make it more streamlined than on my car ferries because those need a very boxy stern because of the car ramps. Now another issue with this I find is that this is going to be underwater but also above water. You very often see tankers out of the water because they aren't hauling anything. So I don't know how to make this look good both when it's underwater and when it's above water. As a side profile, that actually doesn't look bad. Now let's make it from up view. I think that looks good as for a whole. So let's actually start filling everything in. We will start with the bow. So we now have our bow finished, and I think it's nice. I think it's a nice blend between a sharp bow and a stabby one like tankers have. I've never actually made a bow like this, and I think it went way better than my expectations. So now let's move on to the stern. First, before we start filling it in, I just like to bring this thing down. Perfect. Now let's start filling in the gaps. So let's do it by actually first making another outline, and that's going to be for this. And nice. Let's now really fill it in. So I found out that we can't really use wedges here, the 1x4 ones, because they just don't work. So we will stretch this out and then we will see if something different works out better. And we are done. As you can see by the scenery here, I am also in the testing world. But yeah, I think this looks really good. Like, I stepped out of my comfort zone and it ended up better than I thought it would. Although some of these things here are kind of bugging me, so let's add some color to this, shall we? And so we are done with the hull, obviously not the superstructure, which is what we're gonna work on now. But yeah, I think I like this. This looks kinda interesting. It looks like something between a tanker but also with a normal-ish hull, which is what I'm going for because I told you in the last episode, not in this episode, that this is not only going to be a tanker but also an offshore support vessel. So the superstructure won't only be at the stern, but it will be covering most of the back portion. It will be starting near the middle somewhere here and ending at the stern. So that's what we are going for. Let's now go on with working on the stern superstructure. So as I just said, let's start off somewhere near the middle. This should be good. Yeah, that looks fine. Now we want 3 decks, each of them like 9 blocks tall. So let's just plan that out. Maybe first, let's actually lay down some wedges. Now let's drag this out, remove 6, and I wanna make it a little smoother. Nice. Now let's continue on with this up here, and let's then work on the stern part. So now let's move on to the stern part. Now we have the stern and let's do the bridge wings. And just align all the bridge, which this is going to be the most difficult part. I wanna add a crane here and we will need a control room for that. Now at some point I will also add a crane here, maybe two, like they have on the geared bulk carriers. Now we have that, and there's a problem, and that is that it seems a little short, the superstructure, so let's just quickly move it forward. Perfect. At this point it looks very much like a car ferry, and it kind of looks unbalanced with this whole space in here. But we will come back to that and we will utilize that better as to not make it look weird. Now, because I know this is going to flip over, I'm just gonna add a bunch of weight blocks down deep in the hole. And let's add pivots, our favorite glitch. I think that should be it. Try to spawn it. Seems like it floats quite well as far as the buoyancy goes. And yeah, I kinda like this. It gives off a sort of roll-on, roll-off car ferry vibe. Like those only cargo ones, those Grimaldi ferries, I believe that's what it's called. Or that's the company that uses them a lot. But yeah, like one of those, which is interesting. But now I'm going to add a bunch of new details to it, such as windows, and that's about it. And I'm not really going to be recording that, but I will meet you soon with that. So I did some detailing and we now have windows, and it looks really quite nice. This is probably how it will look when it doesn't have any oil in it, kind of sitting out of the water a little. But now the only thing that's left is to test its stability. So let's first start off with, I believe this is in front of us. So this is from ahead, 50%. Let's do 100. By the way, I don't have ocean foam on because I find this a little more realistic. Yeah, it feels nice. Now let's go back to 50. Let's do, this is exactly side on. It seems stable. Yes, it's rocking from side to side a ton, but it doesn't capsize. So let's do more. The most problematic here is going to be the wind, not the waves, because that keeps pushing us over. We may be listing a ton, but doesn't seem like we're going to capsize. So that's great. So we now have a bare bones hull and superstructure for a tanker that we're gonna use in career, and yeah, this has been quite an enjoyable episode. So I hope you also enjoyed it. And with that, I consider this episode done. So see ya.